English. Thank you. That's the English translation of the Latin Miserere, may Deus have mercy on me, O God, from the 51st Psalm of the Book of Psalms, from the Biblia Vulgata, that is, the chosen authoritative Latin translation of the Holy Bible, endorsed in the 16th century at the Council of Trent, 1545 to 1563, and the version which is presently the bedrock of the teachings of the Catholic Church. I say presently with a bit of a smile, as it has not only held from the 16th century, it was actually translated way back in 382, the 4th century, by one Jerome of Stridon, a Latin priest, confessor, theologian, historian, and protege of Pope Damascus I. Jerome of Stridon is commonly known as Saint Jerome, a very important historical figure through his contributions to the Christian faith, the patron saint of, I don't know if you would guess this if I asked you or not, but he is the patron saint of translators, librarians, and encyclopedists. Who knew that there was such a saint? There's hope for all of us, yes? St. Jerome is not only known for his translation of ancient Greek biblical manuscripts into Latin. The Greek versions, by the way, had been translated from ancient Hebrew manuscripts, and so we're looking a couple of iterations out. He was also known as a reformed hedonist who enjoyed superficial escapades and experimentation as a student, as students are wont to do, and feeling terrible pangs of guilt afterwards. So he converts to Christianity, and after conversion to Christianity, he devotes his life to ascetic penance for these sins, denying himself the pleasures of the here and now. He also devoted his attentions to the lives of women, specifically well-born and well-educated women of the Roman nobility, and how they might engage morally with the teachings of the church. You see, Rome, amongst certain classes at that time, was quite well known for its pursuit of pleasure in whatever variety you might dream of, and likely many you can't. Anyway, these attentions led to a most bitter controversy that would pit pious Jerome against this hedonistic lifestyle of the nobility of Rome, all over the death of one of his followers, Blasilla. Jerome had condemned Blasilla for her indulgences, leading her, bless her soul, to adopt, upon Jerome's insistence, a lifestyle of abstinence from sensual pleasures for the purpose of pursuing loftier spiritual goals. Her discipleship lasted a mere 4 months of following Jerome's ascetic lifestyle of self-denial. She passed at the tender age of 20 from starving herself in the name of Christ, a terrible, sad, and painful way to leave this world. It would become known historically as the first recorded case of anorexia nervosa. Jerome, the man who created the Latin Bible in translation for Catholicism, was not only blamed for her death, but in retaliation, all monks were demanded expelled from Rome. Needless to say, Jerome, stripped of status, was not reappointed to his position in service of the Pope at the Vatican and was told to hit the road, Jack. Jerome. And so he packed up with Blasilla's sister, Eustochium, you heard that right, Eustochium, and her mother, Paula, who seemed not overly concerned with her daughter's death, saying, quote, she had died in a state of grace, end quote. Charles Manson couldn't have asked for a more compliant disciple, huh? Well, and so we see, just from this little story of introduction, people and their history are complicated. but you knew that already. So let us fast forward to 1770, a mere 1400 years, give or take, later. The young, somewhat undisciplined Papa's boy, genius prodigy, difficult, self-absorbed Wolfgang Johannes Chrysostomus Theophilus Mozart, this his christened name, or as we know him today, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, is 14. The Amadeus part is actually a translation from the Greek name Theophilus, the third of his christened names, meaning, in English, loved by God. In German, the translation of Theophilus is Gottlieb, not so pretty. But in Latin, it becomes Amadeus. Now, it was pretty trendy to translate your name into other languages in Mozart's day. That's why I call myself Esteban when I'm in Cabo. Hola, Esteban es aquí? Huh? No, not so good, huh? My Spanish? Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, Mozart, a lover of all things trendy, took his own name through several iterations, including experimentation with Amadeo while traveling in Italy in 1770, and later would sign his letters in a mock Latin, a kind of 18th century form of Pig Latin, Wolfgangus Amadeus Mozartus, that wacky Wolfgang. And so a note here for all of us about how to pronounce Mozart's last name. The Z in Mozart's last name is the German Z. And you might hear me say, instead of Mozart, Mozart. It's a TS sound. And you can get that TS sound by taking the tip of your tongue and putting it, striking up near the top of your front teeth and the gum behind, and making a t sound, sort of like you're spitting out a pumpkin seed or something. T, t. Maybe try that. T, t, and then say Mozart. And if you say Mozart instead of Mozart, you won't sound like the Oklahoma boy that I was, walking into the music conservatory saying, I'd like to play me some Mozart. Mozart. Yeah. Anyway, back to the story. In 1770, he and his father have arrived in Rome. It is Holy Week. Holy Week is the most sacred of celebrations in the Christian calendar. It is the week immediately preceding Easter. Easter being a festival commemorating the resurrection of Christ from the dead on the third day after his burial, following crucifixion by the Romans at Calvary. During the week preceding Easter, there are several important commemorations leading up to the main event, including the Last Supper, when Christ takes his last meal with his apostles and where he predicts betrayal from one of the present attendees, Judas, and denial of knowing him from another, Paul, upon being arrested. The week also celebrates the holiday of Good or Holy Friday, the day of crucifixion. Good in this sense meaning a day or season observed by the church, like Good Tidings for Christmas time. It is attendance at just such an important occasion, Holy Week at the Vatican, the highest celebration of the year in Rome. The Pope will be there, that Leopold Mozart wants his son to be in attendance. Was it because the Mozarts were an exceptionally religious family, and this pilgrimage carried great meaning for them? Perhaps. They had not seemed exceptionally religious up to this point, even though Leopold was deputy Kapellmeister, meaning he was assistant head music maker, essentially, to the Prince Archbishop of Salzburg, and had both composed and performed a significant amount of church music, as had his young son, Wolfgang. But was there another motive for attendance at this holiest of events? You better bet your Mozart Kugeln there was. Mozart Kugeln, a side note here. Mozart Kugeln, loosely translated, Mozart balls. Small, round, sugar confections made of pistachio, marzipan, and nougat covered with dark chocolate. These handmade Mozart balls were created in Salzburg in 1890. Salzburg was Mozart's birthplace and home until he left for Vienna. And today they're sold everywhere in Austria, usually at tourist traps, including outside Wolfgang's birthplace, with a picture of Amadeus on the foil wrapper. Regardless of their kitschy pervasiveness, Mozart balls are quite tasty. And if ever in Austria, I highly suggest you try them. But back to our lecture. Yes, there was another reason to be in Rome for Holy Week for the Mozarts. If Leopold could witness the current phenomena of the Tiger Mom, he would not only heartily approve, but be right in the running for the snarliest, ugliest one of all, a tiger dad of the first rank. He referred to his own son as the, quote, miracle which God let be born in Salzburg, unquote. He hovered over him as only a helicopter parent waiting by the mailbox for college admissions could. Leopold had spent his fatherly years as a cranky, possessive, hectoring, and somewhat tyrannical caretaker of his son. However, Leopold was also music instructor, confidant, tour director, head of all things of Wolfgang Amadeus Incorporated, including marketing, finance, publicist, strategist. You get the picture. He had recognized his son's talent at an early age and was damned if he wasn't going to exploit it. After all, you don't make much money on a church musician's salary, and tours to Munich, Vienna, Pressburg, which today is Bratislava, Slovakia, Paris, The Hague, London, all starting at age 6 with the young Wolfgang and his equally talented older sister, Nannerl, were lucrative. Michael and Janet Jackson's father, Joe, comes to mind as an apt, somewhat modern day example, although I'm always interested to see how many students don't know Michael Jackson too much anymore. Interesting. A side note on Nannerl. She deserves much more than a side note, really. She's 4 years older than Wolfgang. Christened Maria Anna Walburga Ignatia Mozart, nicknamed Nannerl, by all accounts, was known as an equal, if not better, than her famous brother. She was an accomplished keyboard player at a young age. Harpsichord and forte piano were her instruments, which are predecessors to today's modern piano. And she accompanied Wolfgang and Leopold on tours of numerous cities, at times as top billing. There is evidence that Nannerl composed music, Wolfgang's letters to her praise her work. None of it remains. The many letters of Leopold, her father, never mention her work as a composer, or shame. By 1769, Nannerl was no longer permitted by her parents to travel with her brother or to show her artistic talents, as she had reached the marriageable age of 18. A pity and a great loss for all music lovers. And so, father and son are in Rome in 1770. Mother and sister have been left behind. This tour, the first of Wolfgang's Italian tours, had begun on December 13th, 1769, and would last 15 months, putting the Mozarts squarely in Rome mid-April. Easter was April 16th in 1770. This was not by accident. One of the fun things to do with young Mozart, now 14, was to put him through tests of ear training, composition, improvisation, etc., at whatever music academy or court the family might encounter as they pass through on their travels. The stories of his ability to play blindfolded, upside down, improvise over given tunes, repeat music on one hearing, etc., even at a very young age, are legendary. These little events had the dual purpose of perhaps drumming up audience for a performance in the area that evening and, even more importantly, to add to Mozart's mythic abilities, which were assuredly impressive, in hopes of establishing a name for the boy that would continue to spread like wildfire. It did. It was a massively successful stroke of marketing genius, which only Leopold could pull off in such a spectacular way. Oh, if only Leopold could have made his son an Instagram influencer with his own YouTube channel. But what could Leopold achieve in Rome that would really seal his son's legendary genius? A coup de grace that only a Mozart could accomplish. Something akin to one David Blaine encased in ice for 64 hours, or Alex Honnold free climbing El Capitan with no assistance, or Elon Musk putting a civilian crew into space. Well, the Roman Catholic Church has always loved mystery. The fundamental faith itself is a mystery, and especially when bolstered by danger and spiced with a little guilt, mystery becomes enticing and challenging, and so it was for the Mozarts. Now remember, Saint Jerome and Saint Jerome's Latin translation of Psalm 51, Miserere, me Deus, have mercy on me, O God. This important text, a call for repentance, was set to music by the Italian composer and Catholic priest Gregorio Allegri in the 1630s, fully 140 years before Mozart had arrived in 1770, and designated to be performed only during Holy Week at the Vatican. There were a few exceptions, but the music remained a closely guarded secret. Allegri was a member of the late Renaissance school of conservative Roman church composers. In other words, it was music written in the old style of Renaissance polyphony rather than the new vocabulary of the bubbly, happy, chugging along Baroque musical period, which had arrived by the 1630s, not in the church. Written for the performance of two simultaneous choirs, one choir of 5, the other of 4. The music alternates between plainsong chant and interweaving lines augmented by ornamentation. This music, composed for this text, continued to have an aura of secrecy at the Vatican, as all handwritten parts, publication, or attempted copying was forbidden. There were only 3 authorized copies of this work distributed prior to 1770. One to the Holy Roman Emperor Leopold I in Vienna, 2, the King of Portugal, John V, and 3, to Padre Giovanni Battista Martini, a famous music composer and historian who was in Bologna. However, it is said that none of these holders of the composition could capture the beauty, austerity, the minimalist aesthetic that could be experienced in its performance at the Sistine Chapel. The Vatican defended and safeguarded this work, threatening excommunication, official exclusion from the Catholic faith to anyone found with an unauthorized copy. This was no small thing, particularly for musicians, including the Mozarts, who still in 1770 relied quite heavily on the Catholic Church for employment, commissions, and status. Now, the sketchy part. As the official record tells us, young Wolfgang and his father attended a performance of the Miserere, and upon returning to their accommodations, the boy wrote the whole gosh darn 14-minute long thing out by memory. His father, Leopold, only discovering it upon its completion. A trifling parlor trick, yes? As Wolfgang's father discovered what he had done, he was so impressed with his precocious son that he did not anger. Oh no, instead, he praised the wonderful boy, and they returned together for a second performance, sneaking in the score to check to see if young Amadeus had remembered it correctly. Merely a teacher checking a student's work, as it were. Innocence all around from a boy who had no idea he was stepping out of bounds, and a father who stumbled upon his indiscretion. Right. Nice story. I call bullocks. How about we get real for a moment? The plan was simple. There would be two performances of the protected Miserere. The first had actually not been at the Vatican, no, but instead in Bologna, north of Rome, on the way from Salzburg to Rome, which was on the way to the Good Friday performance of Miserere at the Vatican. Young Mozart and his father would attend both. The first to hear the piece, memorize its progressions, the setting of the text, and the fundamental plain song chant that the work is based on, possibly with a secretive sketchbook hidden in his waistcoat to furtively jot down as much as possible unnoticed. The second attendance in Rome to verify the accuracy of the work, make corrections from the first attempt, and as a cover for questions that would certainly come later. Father and son, co-conspirators in besting the snooty Vatican establishment. Make no bones about it. This was a golden marketing opportunity for the Mozart brand, along with the ability to sell this secret score to a publisher for a tidy sum. It was also a bold and dangerous prospect that needed to be handled precisely and carefully, especially since Leopold was under the employ of the Prince Archbishop of Salzburg, Sigismund III of Schrattenbach, who had been quite generous in support of Leopold's touring for 15 months with his precocious child. Leopold was committed to getting the illegal project out of Rome undetected. After all, as the official story goes, the deed had been done innocently, and innocently enough. And now it was just a part of the Mozart legacy, nothing more. Plus, why invite misunderstanding by calling attention to this while still in Rome? Well, would Leopold keep the feat a secret? Hell no. His boy had just shown up the Vatican elite. There was fame and money to be had. You better bet that people were going to know about it. The first report is in a letter from Leopold to his wife back in Salzburg on April 14th, 1770. Quote, "You have often heard of the famous Miserere in Rome, which is so greatly prized that the performers are forbidden on pain of excommunication to take away a single part of it, copy it, or give it to anyone. But we have it already. Wolfgang has written it down, and we would have sent it to Salzburg in this letter if it were not necessary for us to be there to perform it. But the matter of performance contributes more to its effect than the composition itself. Moreover, as it is one of the secrets of Rome, we do not wish to let it fall into other hands." Unquote. Damning evidence that. And the fear of excommunication? Who are you going to excommunicate? A famous 14-year-old genius? Nah, I don't think so. Just 3 months after leaving Rome, the fame of his accomplishment had reached the ear of Pope Clement XIV at the Vatican, who didn't seem too angry about the whole thing. Summoning the Mozarts back to Rome, Wolfgang was showered with praise and awarded the chivalric Order of the Golden Spur on July 4th, 1770, essentially a knighthood. The work made its way to London and was published in 1771, ending much of its aura, as there was general agreement that it wasn't so hot without the individualistic ornamentation and expression of the Vatican choir. Oh well. There seems to be no record of the amount paid to Leopold from the publisher, and some dispute as to whether the piece arrived in London through Leopold at all, even though he did meet prominent London music historian and composer Charles Burney during their 1770 Italian tour. Burney's express purpose of travel to Italy was to write a book on the history of music, collecting materials that were not available in England. Interesting. Well, I invite you to listen to Gregorio Allegri's Miserere. I'm going to put the link to that on YouTube up in chat, and you're welcome to copy it out and listen to it sometime. I'll do it right now. I was going to try to play it for you tonight, but I just think we have too many on here that it would just be very laggy. Maybe I'll try to put it on at the end. And so we meet with the historian's dilemma. Which is the true Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart? The pious, pure, hardworking, touched by God himself composer? Some thoughts. Quote, a phenomenon like Mozart remains an inexplicable thing, unquote, Goethe, famous German philosopher. Or, quote, if we cannot write with the beauty of Mozart, let us at least try to write with his purity, unquote, famous composer Johannes Brahms. Or, quote, Mozart is the greatest composer of all. Beethoven created his music, but the music of Mozart is of such purity and beauty that one feels he merely found it, that it has always existed as part of the inner beauty of the universe waiting to be revealed, unquote. Albert Einstein, scientist. Quote, Mozart is the musical Christ, unquote. Peter Tchaikovsky. Contrast that to the Mozart of indiscretion, childish petulance, even in his adult years, overdependence on fatherly approval, party animal, Tourette's-like outbursts of foul language, hyperactive, obsessive, compulsive, and lover of fart jokes. Will the real Slim Shady please stand up? As mentioned before, people are complicated. He stands before us in all of his individual humanity, in its beauty and its ugliness, important and trivial, or as we might find in ancient Chinese philosophy, the yin and yang, which describe how seemingly opposite forces may indeed be complementary, or in the writings of Friedrich Nietzsche, the idea taken from Greek mythology of the Apollonian and Dionysian persona. In Greek mythology, Apollo and Dionysus are sons of Zeus. Apollo is the god of the sun, rational, order, logic, prudence, purity. Dionysus is the god of wine and dance, irrationality and chaos, emotions and instincts. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, Apollonian or Dionysian? The answer is yes. The real Slim Shady has stood up, and he's Mozart, and he's all of us. And so that is my introduction briefly to Mozart and what we're going to see coming up in this lecture series. The Enlightenment part of the series intersects with Mozart in and out of his life. It's very interesting, and there will be people that will talk about this better than I can. But the Enlightenment is generally thought of as an intellectual and philosophical movement of the 17th and 18th centuries that include reason, the idea of rationality, evidence of senses as primary source of knowledge, observable by science. For example, something you can taste or see or touch is something that you can observe, right? And so that is a scientific knowledge. Liberty, free will, or ability to do as one pleases. Progressiveness, movement toward a refined, improved, or desired state through technology, science, social organization, and so on to improve the human condition. Toleration, acceptance of ideas one disagrees with. Fraternity, ethical relationships between people. Constitutional government, separation of church and state. All of those things were coming about at this time, and Mozart very involved in much of it, and certainly worked as someone behind the scenes in quite a bit of what was going on, as different aristocracies trembled as they saw what might be coming for the one percenters and the changes there. Now, some of the main figures intellectually of the Enlightenment include Diderot and Hume and Immanuel Kant and Rousseau and Voltaire and so on. The rulers that were very interested in this, and actually some of them were able to put constitutional monarchies in place. Catherine II of Russia, Joseph II of Austria, Frederick II of Prussia. And if we look at the American Revolution, these figures were very much into the Enlightenment as well. Benjamin Franklin with scientific debate, Thomas Jefferson with and we see parts of the Enlightenment in the Declaration of Independence, and James Madison in the framing of the United States Constitution. All important things that happened during this time. And so we'll see in some of Mozart's works that we'll talk about in the next bit of lecture are some of the intersections with Enlightenment ideas, particularly in his operas, in The Marriage of Figaro and Don Giovanni and The Magic Flute, how Mozart broke away from having a patron and was instead one of the first really successful freelance musicians and composers, a man out on his own, not beholden to some authority figure. He joined the Freemasons. You guys might be familiar with the Illuminati and the Freemasons and so on. It was a very big part of this time period. And he had friendships with many prominent people of the Viennese Enlightenment. Well, what else do we have? We have, next time we get together, a lecture on the movie Amadeus, talking about some of the things that happened there. You need to see this movie before we meet again, if you can. It's $4 on YouTube as just one option. I like the director's cut. It's worth it. It's a great, great movie, and it's timeless. And if you haven't seen it, this is the best time to see it. And it's available on Amazon Prime and Xfinity streaming, and I'm sure plenty of more if you Google that and find it. I'll talk about some of the scenes in the movie and how they fit in with Mozart's actual life and the political and social atmosphere at the time. We'll have Alexander Kahn joining us from Sonoma State University. He's going to talk about Mozart's late symphonies. Shelley Lapkoff will come and talk with us about Enlightenment ideals and influencers of Mozart's time. She's a demographer and will have a lot to say about the society and the political movements of the time period. Laura Pritchard from San Francisco Opera will come to talk with us about Mozart's Marriage of Figaro and about it being banned in Austria for inciting riots. Paul Epstein will talk with us about the psychological character of Don Giovanni, which is the story of Don Juan, which is the story of the real-life figure Casanova. Natsuki Fukuzawa, a Steinway performing artist on piano, will play some of her favorite works for us and talk about them. Or she might, play some other things for us as well. And then batting cleanup, John Merriman, professor of history at Yale University, who graciously agreed to come and talk with us about the Enlightenment, the French Revolution. He is a French history expert and what he's currently working on. And today, David Brooks said he would join us, and he's going to talk a little bit about Mozart's dealing in and out of the Enlightenment, which way to go, the push and pull of all of that for him. And he has some great source material for all of that. So I'm looking forward to all of these. I hope you are too. It's meant for you to have a lot of fun, information, ask a lot of questions, and have a bit of community here in this time when we're all separate. The code word for tonight is Mozart balls. Thank you. See you next week. I'm going to be here for a while if you have any questions, and get that Amadeus watched and get your synopsis, your 250 word synopsis of tonight in, so you get credit for being here. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Dr. Thompson, really quick, Mozart balls, is the B capitalized?
Don't care.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Mozart balls. Big B. The assignment is open for a week. It's not due tonight. Who is coming today?
I was gonna ask. All the work is done in the textbook, right?
Well, not all of the work. Some of the work is on Canvas too. For example, the
Okay.
synopsis for this lecture, if you wish to earn some points from it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure I'll be able to type in Mozart balls.
Okay, well, there's that. And then you have to write a 250 word synopsis of
Yeah.
what we talked about, which, that can be anything. Just so I know that you were somewhat coherent here for the last 45 minutes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Is that a question, Nicholas?
Oh yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I watched the movie. Is it supposed to be, how historically accurate is it supposed to be? Is it supposed to be like a comedy of?
Well, that's what we're going to talk about next week.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then, just curious. Anyways, I'll wait.
But you're right. You're right. It's not perfectly historically accurate. You're correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Marisol, do you have a question?
Yes. What was the name of the young girl that passed away from anorexia?
Oh, hold on a second, because I want to make sure I say it correctly. Blaze. I have to go back here in my notes. Blazilla. Yeah. BLAESILLA.
LLA. Okay, thank you. And then the second. Oh, I'm sorry.
Blazilla. There she is. She's in. Oh, somehow I'm getting this just to one person. Let's try that again. Let's try it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And second question.
You said that his middle name was the one that was being transferred in Latin.
Yes.
What was his middle name?
Theo. Hold on here. Again, I don't want to say it incorrectly because I'm Theophilus. And I'll put that in the notes here too.
Thank you.
Theophilus.
And what Natalie just asked in the chat was my next question as well. What did Saint Jerome have to do with Mozart? Like, how were they connected?
Oh, okay. So I'm sorry to pop that. Saint Jerome was the priest who copied they did the translation into Latin of the Miserere. He actually did the whole Holy Bible into Latin. So the text of the Miserere that Mozart was copying out was Saint Jerome's.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Marisol, do you have a question?
Yes, that was me. Sorry, let me put my hand back down.
Oh, okay. Bridget.
Hi. So I was just wondering if the synopsis is going to be like a credit, no credit thing, or will it be like graded? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I usually read through them, and if you have 250 words and it seems that you have followed along in the lecture, or at least have something that we talked about, then you'll get credit for it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Raylani.
Where can we find the recorded lectures?
We'll post them up in a couple of days on the site that you use to zoom in on the Mozart
Okay.
project site.
Thank you.
No, I didn't say anyone was coming to lecture us today. Next week, I'm up again, and then the week after that, Wednesday nights. Yes, and the synopsis is not due until the 10th.
I have a real quick question.
Yes, Devin.
I was just wondering if this is the first synopsis we will be doing. I'm just a little bit behind because I've been doing a lot of things outside of school. I was just wondering if this is the first synopsis of the semester.
It is the first one.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Professor, I'm so sorry. I have 2 more questions.
Oh, hi, Marisol.
Last week, did we have a Zoom?
No, this is our first
okay. I
one.
thought I heard somebody say something about that, so that confused me. Second question, you said that Mozart is the one that joined the Freemasons?
Mozart, yeah. I'm gonna
Mozart.
there you go. Good. Very good.
Okay, so
yes,
that's when it was becoming popular, or was it already around before that?
it was popular. It was seen as a secular, somewhat underground movement that based on Enlightenment principles. And his last opera, The Magic Flute, is based on Masonic elements. And so a lot of people have spent time tearing apart that opera to see what he had to say about the Masons and their secrets and all of that. It's pretty interesting.
That's awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are we done? Can we go? Yes, you can go. Okay, good night. Everyone loves a secret society. Yes.
Thanks, Professor. Have a good night.
Oh, you too, Marisol. Thank you. Darlene.
Hello, I have a question. Will we attend lectures every Wednesday or just today and the 10th?
You can see the schedule of the lectures on the link that I put up for you in Canvas. They're also all listed in Canvas. And I'm going to add one more, but that's basically the Wednesdays that you would want to Zoom in if you would like to participate in this and earn credit.
Okay, and we don't have to submit today the 50 words, right? It could be until the 10th and we still get a points for attendance as well?
That's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Allison, do you have a question?
Hi, I was just wondering if the synopsis was extra credit, like in the lectures were extra credit, or if it was required for the course.
Yeah. So my course is based on a points accrual method, meaning you are just gathering points to get to the point total that you want. This is a point generating opportunity. If you decide to do the synopsis and write down the code word, then you have the ability to earn points for being here tonight. If you decide that you don't want to do that and want to get your points some other way, that's up to you, and no skin off my nose either way.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions?
Where did you say we could find the recordings?
The recordings will be posted up on their Mozart project page, and I'll send that out to everybody. I'll send you a link and let you know. It usually takes a couple of days. It has to load up in Zoom and everything, and then I have to put it up on a YouTube page, and then our esteemed webmaster, Kate Wells, will create something for it on that page, and at that time I'll let you guys know where it is.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Excuse me,
Shiloh.
Professor?
Hi.
Yes. Hi. So I was actually a little bit late with the whole signing up and getting set up through Canvas as well as the textbook website. I'm having a little bit of a hard time managing between a couple of classes. How much time do I have to get caught up to? I think we're on chapter 13 and I'm maybe halfway there.
Yeah, the beauty of my course is that well, I don't know. I think it's the beauty of my course. Anyway, I give you suggested dates for completion on everything unless I tell you it's a hard deadline. And
Okay.
so all of the textbook work is on your own to get completed by the end of the term. I don't know if you're in the 8-week or 16-week course. And so those dates that you see are saying, hey, this week, if you're on track to finish and have the work kind of equaled out across the term, this is what
Right.
you should be doing. You can work ahead if you want. If you're behind, fine, work a little bit extra the following week and get caught up, and you should be all right.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Have a great night.
You too. Just a few of you left. Joanne, Jameson, Iris, Abdul, Addison, Heather.
Yeah, I really just wanted to hear everyone's questions and concerns.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Smart. All right. Anybody else have a question before I end tonight then? Okay, good. It was good seeing you guys. Have a great evening. I'll hope to see you here next week. Take care.